Tonight on America's Dumbest Criminals. Where does this inmate think he's going in such a hurry? We don't think he's getting off on good behavior. If you were dressed like this, wouldn't you be inclined to be in a hurry? And what do you need for a stakeout to catch sticky-fingered donut thieves? There's a whole lot of laughs right under your nose as we track down America's Dumbest Criminals.
Delta 1566, give me a call and you'll find me.
Now, welcome your hosts for ABC, Daniel Butler and Debbie Allen.
Hi there. Daniel, what are you doing out there?
Get
We have a show to do.
Go ahead. No. Debbie, I'm bringing joy to my public, all right? You look like a jelly-filled man to me, Rusty. Yes, you are. Nothing personal. You understand.
Why is it? Oh, you're eating. Oh, great. Don't get anything on your suit, okay? But why is it that you're always eating on this show?
Well, I have to keep my energy up, Debbie, to be at my best for my fans, and I can feel there's a whole lot of love in this room. Eat up, Rusty.
That could be, or it might just be the sugar buzz. I understand Daniel's reason for bringing donuts. A little bit later, we have a story about a donut stakeout. But now it's time for Caught on Camera. If I can pull Daniel away from his adoring public, we'll introduce our first story. Daniel? Oh, great. What happened?
Well, I'm not quite sure, Debbie. I think it was a backdraft or something. It was Rusty.
Do I need to get out the dustbuster?
Man.
Do I need to get my dustbuster?
Please, would you?
All right. While I'm vacuuming Daniel, I want you to take a look at an amazing story. A Nashville TV news crew was in a perfect position to observe an inmate releasing himself from a work detail. The tape was rolling, and it was caught on camera.
We were down there doing a story on some sort of mysterious sonic boom. So they got a lot of phone calls to the 911 center. So we go down to the 911 center. Well, my buddy, my cameraman, Al Devine, always rolling videotape. We're walking out into the parking lot, going to our car, and suddenly I look up and I see this jail suit running across the field. I go, Al, roll on this guy. He's already rolling, he's on it. Just caught, the last 10 or 11 seconds of it, and we're going, what was that about? Well, we're at the 911 center, so we can tell a cop who's right there, go, you better get right on this, man. You got an escapee. And we helped catch him. Basically, I said, well, what were you thinking? He goes, man, it was just Christmas time, and I wanted to see Grandma and get home, and it was like an Andy Williams episode or something. So it was really kind of amazing.
There's some in my pocket.
Okay, all right.
All right. Stop me if you've heard this one. A guy goes into a bar and steals the tip jar.
What's in your pocket? And?
And what?
Well, what's the punchline?
Oh, it's right here in Something to Remember Me By.
We were dispatched to a theft at a local restaurant. We talked to the owner, and he said somebody had stolen a tip jar off of his counter. He said that a subject had come in, asked for an application, and that was his reason for being there. While he was filling out the application, the owner was walking around doing the work in the store, and when he went in the back, the guy grabbed the tip jar off the counter and ran out the front door. When we got there, when we looked at the application he was filling out, it had the name of one of our local people that we always arrest for petty thefts and things like that. So come to find out, he put all his correct information on the application. So we just went to his house, picked him up, got him in a photo ID lineup. Owner picked him out right away, and we arrested him. So now we got a new occupation. He makes license plates.
If your heating and cooling system isn't working as well as it should, try checking the filter.
And if that isn't the problem, see if you've got a burglar caught in the duct. Hey, it happens. See for yourself.
We were working a night watch. It was near the end of the watch, and we got a call for burglars in the building at a store. So we go over there, and we have 4 cars on it, 2 on the perimeter and 2 to go inside and search the building. Short time later, get a call on the radio that they have the situation secure So I walk on up there and I'm dumbfounded. I look at everybody, what is this? And as it turns out, it's this burglar who was hanging upside down, encumbered on the air duct grating for 6 hours prior to our arrival. He was so hung up in the ceiling there that we had to call the fire department to get the jaws of life and cut him out of there. So we get him out, and so he's telling us that he decided to climb up a tree which was about 5 feet away from the building, and he's about 20 feet off the ground, and he jumps onto the roof, pulls the grate off to the air duct, and his story is he heard some music and he was leaning in to listen to the music, and he fell in. He had no intention of committing a burglary. When it was all said and done, he had 2 other burglary charges pending, and the state of Missouri gave him a nice warm place to stay for 5 years.
In Carmel, California, women are not allowed to wear high heels while in the city limits.
Does that mean that men are? Well, if so, that leads right to our next story. A man in a dress is by nature a funny idea. It worked for Milton Berle, Flip Wilson, and Moms Mabley. But it's a real drag for a guy hoping to get off the hook with police. Here's another of America's dumbest excuses.
I stopped a car in a local park, and it was occupied by one person, one guy, and I thought it was suspicious. He kept leaning over to the front of the seat. Looked like he was putting something underneath the seat, so I pulled up behind him, got out, started talking to him a little bit, noticed right away that he was wearing a dress. Pink flowered dress, drawstrings, and had a slip-on underneath even. So I got a little suspicious. So after I got him out of the car, I saw some empty beer cans in the car and placed him under arrest for the open liquor in a park, and found 11 bags of rock cocaine underneath the front seat. And from there, I started to ask him about, hey, why are you wearing a dress? He said that he was robbed, and since he didn't have any money, they made him put a dress on. And so he just kept it on. When I asked him why he didn't put his clothes back on, which were sitting right on the front seat, he said that his car had overheated and he lived about a half a block away and he was just about to put the clothes on when I pulled up. Based on his dirty feet, we thought he was out dancing in the park.
If you are disturbed by senseless acts of violence against electronic equipment, I suggest you turn away now. But if you're one of those people who wish your Uncle Lou would get the camcorder out of your face at Thanksgiving dinner, you may take a certain devious pleasure in what you're about to see. It's a blink of the eye, blue light special.
If you think the food here is fast, watch the speedy moves of these robbers. This one's a little camera shot. Ouch! But the videotape is even faster than they are, recording unfavorable impressions of these guys before lights out. Just what the police officers order. Salad bar? No. Crowbar? Unfortunately, yes. Behind bars? Definitely. Because remember, not only does the camera never lie, it always has the last laugh.
These robbers really scoped out their targets. They had blueprints, they drew diagrams, they carried stopwatches to practice their schemes. Well, clearly the crook you're about to see put very little planning into his heist, and it shows.
I normally work the day shift, and early one morning, I left the station a little bit late. Went down to the coffee shop to get myself a coffee because I was a little tired. Got my coffee, I all set to sit down and finish up paperwork from the night before, and we had a bank alarm come in. I started heading the area like every other cruiser normally does when we have a bank alarm. And on the way to the bank, we got a description of a vehicle. As I'm driving down one of the streets, I spot a car coming from that direction, about the right amount of time that it would take them to get there. I look at him, he looks at me. I figure it's got to be him the way he looked at me. I pull him over. He gave me an explanation that he just dropped his daughter off at school and he was headed home. I detained him. Got the bank employees who said they saw this guy. Came up and they identified him as the guy who tried to rob the bank. Is that the guy?
That's the guy.
The kicker is, the thing that makes this thing so interesting is the fact that he entered the bank through the first set of doors, looked at the tellers all lined up and ready to go for the morning, stepped to the left, put a mask over his head, stepped back to the right, and tried to go into the bank. The problem is it was 10 to 9. The bank doesn't open until 9 o'clock. He hauled on the doors until he broke them, but by that time, so much time had gone by, the tellers had pushed the alarm. He figured it out, took his mask off, and ran out the door. He ran out to his car, which was parked inside the bank, right next to the window, so all the tellers could see him get in his car and leave in the direction that I was actually coming from. He apparently had looked at the clock, to the bank right next to this one, and the clock was 10 minutes fast. So, poor timing on his part.
When traveling, the crew of ADC eats at Tony Roma's. Tony Roma's, over 200 locations worldwide.
And now with the news, here's a guy who could add charm to any police lineup. Here's Daniel with ADC Headlines.
While paying for his meal at a barbecue restaurant in Shreveport, Louisiana, a man decided to place a to-go order for all the cash in the register. The clerk did as instructed, and the robber was out of the door faster than you could say hot sauce. In fact, he left so fast that he left his wallet containing, among other items, his prison ID card. Now, here's a thought that'll launch you towards the stratosphere of stupidity. Hey, I'm drunk. I think I'll go steal an airplane. A California man took to the sky on a not-so-natural high, barely missing a hospital before he surged through power lines and took a nosedive into the median of a freeway. Cheap thrills? Hardly. The utility company billed him for $118,000 for damages. Plus, he's being sued by the owner of the plane and a man injured by his kamikaze caper. So much for the friendly skies, huh? Almost clever drug smugglers thought they'd come up with a devious way to transport over 6,000 pounds of marijuana into the U.S. from Mexico. They rigged a propane tanker trunk with a secret compartment, yet it was able to produce propane gas from all of its valves. Impressive, yes, but there was one unsightly little oversight. They misspelled the name of the well-known gas company on the side of the truck. And that closes the files on ADC Headlines, news ripped from somewhere near the back of your local newspaper. Debbie?
You've seen the bumper sticker that reads hugs, not drugs. Well, here's the story of a mother who couldn't choose between the two, so she offered her son both. It's our special delivery.
The matter that we're presenting today is a case we call the family affair because it involves the arrest of both an 18-year-old son and his mother. The 18-year-old defendant was in police custody for a theft charge, and during processing, he requested to make a phone call. It's not uncommon that defendants will ask to call somebody before they're transported to the county jail. In this instance, we certainly allowed him to call somebody, and he called his mother. Well, we were happy about that because we had an arrest warrant for the mother as well. Mom arrives a short time later at the police department. Well, she requests the opportunity to give her son a hug before he's transported to the local prison, so we certainly allowed, and they embraced for a short time. The embrace was in such a manner that they were trying to conceal their bodies away from the officers who were also present. And it just looked unusual to the officers, and they knew something was up. The problem is, Mom is slipping him some narcotics during the hug, during the embrace. Well, of course, there is a constable present, there are police officers present. They view this transaction. Not only is mother arrested for the outstanding warrant, but also of delivery of a controlled substance, that being the narcotics, to her son, who was in police custody at the time. Of course, the police officers would never stand in the way of a mother's love for her son, especially a son who she wouldn't see for a while because he was being incarcerated. So we were more than happy to allow them to embrace.
Crullers, twists, old-fashioned, bear claws, honey buns, cream-filled, chocolate-covered, or rolled in sprinkles, donuts. I practically glaze over just thinking about them. And to think that anyone would pull a donut heist is downright repugnant. They should be dunked in oil, kind of like donuts. For the story, we go to Delray Beach, Florida.
We were out checking out a local grocery store because they were having some burglaries that took place. They were losing some bakery goods. So we decided to put one of our officers undercover.
I was sort of put in charge of taking care of it, so they stuck me in an undercover vehicle, unmarked. And I sat and watched, and I happened to see one of the cleaning crew members who cleaned the parking lot throughout the night, grabbing the donuts and sort of stashing in the bushes for later time to snack on, and I happened to catch him in the act. He wasn't too happy with that. He said, "I can't believe I'm going to jail over a box of donuts." I said, "Well, stealing's stealing, whether it's a box of donuts or a car." The evidence never got entered. Nobody takes my donuts. Despite the media and public's opinion, all the donuts recovered and returned to the store. We did not eat them.
Now, let's look back at one of ADC's greatest hits.
On Christmas morning in Chevy Chase, Maryland, a couple called the police to report a burglar in their home who was downstairs attempting to stuff their presents into his pants and sneak out. Police quietly entered the house and arrested the little elf, who must have been looking for a pair of suspenders that he obviously misplaced before leaving the North Pole. He was last seen decking the halls at the local chain.
In Georgia, you have the right to commit simple battery if provoked by fighting words.
A lady had called the police department reporting that she had called her stolen cell phone number.
Hello, you have my phone.
And it was answered by a guy named Skip. This is Skip, who had just stated he had just paid $50 for this cell phone and he wanted $50 to basically break even on it. They decided to meet up at the local Burger King, where I was able to be with the victim inside her vehicle, laying down on the floor of the sport utility vehicle. He circles our vehicle and stops. I tell the driver to have the suspect get out of his vehicle. At that point, as they're talking, I get out of our vehicle and approach him and place him under arrest for trafficking stolen property. And I searched his vehicle incident to arrest, where I found some methamphetamine and some marijuana. This guy should have quit while he was ahead.
When you need to settle an argument and Judge Judy is busy, who are you going to call?
If your answer is Ghostbusters, you need to get out more often, okay? That movie's 20 years old, okay?
A less exotic, though more timely response would be to call the police, which is just what happens in this story.
Here's We're Not Making This Up.
I got a call to go to a family dispute, and I walk up, and there's this old lady on the front porch. I said, "Ma'am, what's wrong?" And she said,
"It's this old boy over here. He keeps coming out here staring at me."
Who is it?
That old boy that lives over there. I think they call him Biscuit.
I knocked on the door, and Biscuit comes to the door, and I said, "Are you Biscuit?" And he said, "Yeah."
Biscuit, I want you to quit looking at her, okay?
You heard the man.
Tell that crazy fat to quit looking at me.
And I said, "Okay, ma'am, will you quit looking at him?"
You quit going paw. Paw.
"Okay, sir, quit going paw to her." I said, "Okay." So I get about maybe 2 blocks away, and I hear on the radio, "Officer May, go back. They're at it again." And when I get back, Biscuit's mama's there. And she has her hands underneath her arms going, walking in a circle. And Biscuit was on the front porch.
Y'all the craziest people I've ever seen in my life. Y'all crazy.
Hi, now!
All right, y'all are acting like children. I'm going to have to treat you like children. Go to your room. And they all turned around and went back into their rooms. I said, "Don't come out until y'all can play nicely." And I didn't get another call for the rest of the night.
Well, Daniel's donut box is empty, so it's time to go.
Yeah, I hope next week we have a story about a steak and lobster stakeout.
You work up your appetite while our staff works up new stories.
An ice cream story wouldn't be bad either, you know? Rocky Road?
Yeah, I feel like I travel that every week with you.
Oh, yeah. And we'll travel it again next week, won't we?
Yes, we will. But before we leave, we'd like to thank the officers who helped us with this show.
And say hats off to all who serve in law enforcement. We appreciate the good folks who protect us from the bad guys.
If you'd like to drop us a line, visit our website, www.dumbcrimes.com. As always, we hope that we've all learned from others' mistakes.
But if you haven't, we just might see you next week on America's Dumbest Criminals.
You bring the donuts. Bye.
down.